Turkish March, Road to Boston.
I hope everyone had a nice Memorial Day with their family, and I appreciate everybody's comments on Friday about why we celebrate Memorial Day, and please always remember that. It's just not to have a Monday off and have a barbecue. Before we get into this week's lesson of the Revolutionary War, I want to show you something new. So by now you've seen my Bitmoji classroom that I launched this morning. This is my home office. And behind me is the actual lessons that you'll be doing for the week. Each week, obviously, that will change. And there are clickable links that you can go to right from this slide. This week, you will view a PowerPoint on the Revolutionary War battles, fill in a graphic organizer, complete a timeline, create a flyer looking for support during the war, and watch a brain pop video. And yes, you may work with a partner or partners. Here's some quick facts about the Revolutionary War. Who was it with? Right, it was the British against their own 13 colonies. It took place from 1775 to 1781. At least that's when battles were fought. There were some battles that happened after 1781. Major General for us was George Washington. Treaty of Paris ended it in 1783, and it gave America its independence. So this week you will be looking at the important battles and events of the American Revolution. The American Revolution started in 1775 and lasted until about 1783. Yorktown, the final battle, official final battle of the Revolutionary War, ended the war in 1781, but there were still some battles going on, and then the Treaty of Paris, which ended the war officially, had to be signed. Last week, you touched briefly on the Midnight Ride of Paul Revere and also the shots heard around the world. Here is a map of Boston and the ride of Paul Revere, Samuel Prescott, and William Dawes. No history tells us that Paul Revere went around saying, "The British are coming, the British are coming." Some historians say that is incorrect because he didn't want to let the British know that he knew that they were coming. So supposedly he said, "The regulars are coming, the regulars are coming." First battle of the Revolutionary War was the Battle of Lexington and Concord that took place after Paul Revere warned that the British were coming. The second battle that took place was the Battle of Bunker Hill, which took place on Breed's Hill in Boston. This battle is important because even though the Patriots had to retreat because they ran out of ammunition, it proved they could stand up to the British. The British had way more casualties. The battle that you will learn about this week is called the Battle of Fort Ticonderoga, which happened up in New York State near Lake George. The fort actually still stands today, and you can tour it. Many of the battles took place in New Jersey. This week you will learn about the Battle of Trenton, but there were other notable battles such as the Battle of Princeton. Battle of Trenton is one of the most famous battles of the Revolutionary War. As I mentioned in the first slide, it is when George Washington crossed the Delaware on Christmas Eve for a surprise attack on the Hessians. The Hessians were German mercenaries or soldiers that were hired by the British to fight. George Washington won the battle and captured 900 Hessians. The winter at Valley Forge was a horrible time for the Continental Army. They lacked food, shelter, clothes, even footwear. But during that time, Washington and others trained the soldiers, and after the winter, they emerged as a better army. In 1776, the Founding Fathers got together in Philadelphia and drafted and signed the Declaration of Independence. The Declaration is probably the most important document in our history. The primary writer was Thomas Jefferson. This document served as exactly what it says, a declaration of the Americas declaring its independence from Great Britain. But the important thing was that they had to win the war. If the colonists and the Patriots did not win the war, they would not have been independent. The Battle of Saratoga is the turning point of the war. The Battle of Saratoga is important because it's considered to be the turning point of the war. At this point, the colonists were going at it alone against the British. The French were their allies, and they were urged to actually lend their support to the colonists, but they did not want to throw their hat into the colonists to help them unless they thought the colonists could win. So after the Battle of Saratoga, the French actually allied with the British. The Battle of Saratoga is important because this American victory convinced the French to recognize the colonists' cause and enter the war as their ally. Again, the reason why the Battle of Saratoga is so important in the Revolutionary War is because this American victory convinced the French to enter the war as the colonists' ally. The Battle of Yorktown was the last major land battle of the American Revolution, and is also a battle that the Americans won, therefore causing General Cornwallis, the head of the British Army, to surrender to George Washington. The Patriots were able to win the Battle of Yorktown because George Washington and his troops surrounded Britain's Cornwallis by land, and then the French were able to blockade the harbor so that the British could not surrender. At that point, Cornwallis did surrender, and this was the end of the Revolutionary War. A treaty is something that ends the war, and the treaties are named for where it was signed. And in this case, and there's been many Treaty of Parises, this Treaty of Paris was signed in 1783, and as you know, Paris is in France. At the ending of the war, negotiators from each side get together and they hash out the terms for the treaty. In the case of the Patriots, the three people that were important in negotiating this treaty were John Jay, John Adams, and Benjamin Franklin. The Treaty of Paris in 1783 officially ended the American Revolution. The treaty gave America full independence, which actually meant that Britain would recognize the United States as its own country. At that point, it was still the 13 colonies. The United States or the colonies got all territory east of the Mississippi between Canada and Florida, and the removal of all British Army from U.S. claims in America took place. And that's a little preview of the Revolutionary War and how we became an independent nation of the United States. Now have a great week. If you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you.